composer Zach Heyde here, and today I'm going to show you how you can write orchestral battle music in the style of Lord of the Rings. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This is an ongoing series that I've been doing for a while now, starting with Skyrim, and most recently How to Train Your Dragon, where I take a look at different composers and their styles, and then we kind of make an imitation of it in Logic Pro. Now you can do this in any DAW you want, with any virtual instruments, it doesn't really matter. The idea is the discipline of studying something, analyzing it for what makes it tick, and then making an imitation of it yourself. Now unfortunately with this series, almost every video I put up gets demonetized because of the content that I'm using, the other music. So if you want to support the channel, you can leave a like, subscribe for more. And if you really want to support me, you can buy me a coffee in the video description. Okay, so for today's exercise, we're going to be listening to the Fellowship theme. I don't know quite which movie this one's from, but it's a really powerful version, and I think it'll be a good frame of reference for what we're going to create ourselves. So let's just listen to it first. Okay, and that's all we're gonna work with. I've talked about this in other videos, but it's really important that you limit your material to a very, very small chunk. Don't bite off more than you can chew. It's really important that you do this. So let's listen again, and this time I want you to pay attention to what the individual sections of the orchestra are doing. So the brass, the winds, the strings, and the percussion. Okay, now if you can't hear all of the instruments, that's okay, that's not a problem. We're looking for these kind of macro decisions. So first things first, where is the melody? The melody is in the trumpets, and in the brass section, for the most part, we have the trumpets playing the lead, and we have the other brass instruments giving the support and these kind of pushes, these accents, bum, 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 right? So we're gonna wanna accent that kind of a trait in our music. The next thing we have is strings and winds. They're a little harder to hear, but in the second half, you can hear them a bit more prominently. They're kind of giving this little pulse in the background. See if you can hear that in the second half. Now, really important to notice is that they're actually kind of offsetting the melody. So instead of going bum, 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 they're going dun 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 dun. So they're accenting on a different beat than where the melody is landing. That's important because it helps to create this kind of counterpoint or counter melody to offset that actual melody itself. The other element that we have is the percussion. Now the percussion is pretty much just hammering away at these downbeats, bum, 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 and that sort of pushes the melody forward even more. So those are our primary elements. We're gonna dig a little bit more into the individual sections, but that's our frame of reference to start. So I'm gonna hop over to Logic now, where I have preloaded all the instruments that I think I'm gonna be using. So it's gonna be the strings, brass, winds, percussion, for the most part. So let's start off by creating a piano sketch, and that's gonna help us just establish something harmonically that's similar to Lord of the Rings. So the chords that are being used in Lord of the Rings to really give it that kind of heroic feeling, if we find our key first, we're in A minor, so. That's A to C to A, or if you're talking about chord numbers, that'd be 1, 3, 1. Now this next chord, we had a 6, which is very heroic sounding. So we go 6, 3. Now there's kind of an interesting chord here that I believe is a sus chord, suspension. So it's our 1 chord, but with a suspension. And that kind of stops it from resolving too early. So suspension uses the 4th scale degree. And then we have 6, 7, 1. So all together. Right, that's the idea. Now, we don't need to do that exactly, but we can borrow from those harmonies as well to kind of keep it in line with the Lord of the Rings style. So let's come up with something similar, and let's even keep the same key to make it really, really easy for us to understand the harmonies. So let's come up with a chord progression maybe. Maybe something like that. So we'll do 1, 6, 1, 3. Let's do 3, 1, major 4, 6. Okay, so if you can't remember it or you like to plug things in manually, you could do step input or whatever you use in your DAW to input these chords one by one. And I'll kind of do that to demonstrate how I would approach it. So maybe I would actually go in my step input and just play the chords one by one. So. Okay, so now we have kind of our frame of reference, and we can embellish this as we want to, but we have the idea. Okay, so now let's work out a melody. And the melody was kind of punching out on these downbeats. So bum, bum, dun, 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 dun. So we need something similar. So let's just play this, loop it a couple times, see if we can come up with something. Almost got something there. I like that ending there. So let's try and get that. Okay, and we're gonna loop this chord progression as well. Okay, and let's get our beginning. Let's change that second chord. See, sometimes you'll work with the chords first, but sometimes you'll want your melody, or you'll have a good melodic idea and you have to adjust your chords. So we're gonna change that to an E minor, which is a 5. And now we're gonna have the melody go bum bum ba-da-dum, which is kind of like, you know, rip off of Lord of the Rings, but that's the idea. Okay, I had an idea for the ending. Let's do. So that's just kind of walking up the scale. Da, da, ba, da, da, dum, ba, da, dum. Okay, now we kind of have a framework, so this is certainly enough to get started with the orchestration. You don't want to actually go too far into the piano sketching process because you're not going to be writing it for piano, you're writing it for orchestra. So this is just to lay out a framework, help you memorize your ideas. So let's get started now. Now we're going to start with the melody, the most important part of this. You don't have to do that, but that's how I recommend doing it. So starting with the melody, which is going to be in the trumpets. I am going to use my angry trumpets here because they're very aggressive. Now I'm going to use the Tech Control MIDI breath controller. Not sponsored, but everybody asked me what this is. That's what it is. I'll put it in the description. Okay. Okay. Da, 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 da. We're going to try this via C and see what happens. We might change it. Okay, that was good. Make sure when you're playing these lines or recording them, whatever it is, that you give these players time to breathe. That's what I like about this, is it helps me remember when to breathe, because I have to. But it also makes things sound more realistic. Now, I would like to try that in a different VST or potentially layer. So let's try the same thing. Let's mute the melody up here, and let's just try it in some legato trumpets, Cinematic Studio. A little less aggressive. I think it might kind of work better. Let's see. I like having that little swell at the end, kind of like pushes up. Now, I like to quantize stuff. Not everybody does. But for me, it just makes me feel better. So that's how I like to do it. It takes a little bit of time to do it, but I will show you, just because a lot of people who've talked about this channel like to see the whole process. So I want to make sure that I show you the whole thing. So I'm quantizing. I have a bunch of macros that I use to do that. And with Cinematic Studio Series and some other instruments where you have that legato, you need to delay the beginning, have a delay offset, and then make sure that your beginning note is pushed a little forward because it's activating too early. So I'll test it. See, it's a little off. This has to be over here. Okay, just about there. It's pretty close. I'm gonna make these all one velocity and see if that helps. It's kind of rushing a little bit, the whole thing. So let's actually have this delay be a little bit less substantial and see if it helps. Maybe even a little bit less. Now, you don't have to spend this much time on every single instrument, but for the melody, I think it's important. This sounds good. Yeah, I think that sounds really good. So we can move on now. So let's now get the rest of the brass. So let's work section by section. I'm going to keep the angry trumpets muted in case I decide to layer. In fact, actually, let's try layering them now. Make them a lot quieter and see what happens. It does kind of add a nice bite to it, so I might keep that. Now, let's listen over again to the reference track and just see what's going on with the rest of the horns and the trombones. Again, a lot of emphasis on those downbeats with breathing in between, so that's really important. I'm noticing the horns are kind of like way up, up on the top, and just kind of staying there. The less movement you have in those accompanying parts, the less noticeable they'll be in a positive way. Let's try the angry horns. I'm actually going to cut a little bit of... There we go. Okay, now I'm going to also pull up my piano for reference, so I know what I'm playing here. That can be helpful sometimes. Actually do something like this, so you can reference what you what you did with the chords. Okay. One more try. Okay, that was good. There was one part I screwed up. That chord right here. Okay, we'll try those horns and see how we like them. Now the trombones are gonna be a little lower in the register. We're gonna use like parallel fifths and octaves like crazy here because we want it to feel kind of primal, and I think that'll actually help. I know you're not supposed to break that rule, but rules are made to be broken. All right. Here we go. Let's try that one more time. One more. Okay, pretty close. Gonna have to adjust a couple things in there. I'd like to hear the trombones and the horns on their own, just to see if I want to change the voicings at all. So see how the trombones and the horns are doubling the same notes on the top? I don't want that, actually. So I'm gonna really stick to what I said. And we're just gonna use open fifths and octaves. Let's try it. Okay, really close. Just one thing I gotta fix. Seems like I keep wanting to change this to a C major. Maybe I will just commit to it, because I keep going for it on the piano. Oh, not that chord. This chord. Dum, da, da, dum. Let's change that in the piano. Okay, and then let's change that in the horns and the trombones. I don't think it'll affect the melody. That's much more Lord of the Ringsy. Okay, let's just hear that without the piano accompaniment. I think it works, but I think I would like to use these as doublings. And I think I'd like my primary instrument actually to be the maybe cinebrass. So let's lower these trombones. Yeah. Cinebrass is a bit more mellow than angry brass, and so I think it'll work well for this. I also use Cinematic Studio brass, especially for legato stuff, but in this case we have a lot of just like pulses, so I think that's gonna work for this. So one last listen. This is a really important section, which is why we're spending so much time on it, and then we'll move on. I really want clear space in between those. So let's just make sure. Here's a cool trick. If all notes are of the same duration, like these, these dotted half notes, one thing you can do is you can highlight all the ones you want to adjust. And then if you do Shift and Option and click on the end of a note, it'll adjust the lengths for all of them. So you can get a little pulse. And then for here, we're gonna do these manually. Now this, I'm noticing I wanted to dum bum bum. So let's have some space in here. Bum bum bum. You can always vocalize stuff if you want to hear like how you want it to sound. Not really hearing that. Horn's got to be a little louder on that part. Bum bum. So grab the horns. That's cool. Just changing the voicings. Okay, now we could also add in either cimbasso, or the tuba. I think we'll just do a tuba just covering the bass notes. Just add a little extra bass. Now, in fact, actually, let's even double that at the same time with contrabass and cellos, just to save us some time. If you've balanced your template well, we'll even do it with bassoon too, why not? If you've balanced your template well, then you should be able to do this. This should work great. All right. I forgot about the C. Great. Works for me. I think we need more presence in the trumpets, so let's bump this layering up. And let's bump the horns down. Sounds pretty darn clear to me. Okay, so now let's move on to the strings and winds. Now they're kind of doing the same thing, and we're gonna kind of approximate it. So again, if we listen for reference, just basically offsetting everything. So we're gonna come up with our own little counter line. It should be pretty similar, honestly. And let's work on the second half, and then we're gonna actually pull the whole thing down an octave for the first half. Let's keep it super simple. So we're just gonna do, just basically doing the octaves and fifths of whatever chord we're on, as long as the voice leading is cool. We'll do that. Okay, let's try something like this. I'm gonna play it as a demo, and if it sounds good, then we'll keep it. Almost good. We'll change that ending. Super close, just gonna add it in myself. Bum, 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 bum. Now this is an ensemble patch. If you're just doing a mock-up, it's fine for you to do this. I'm gonna actually show you what I would do if I was doing an ensemble patch and wanted to split it out. I would just copy this and paste it through whatever sections I wanted to. So in this case, this is pretty much just gonna be staccatessimos maybe. And then these will be sforzandos for Cinematic Studio strings. But, you know, you find out whatever works for you. These are a little inconsistent dynamically, so I'm gonna make these all the same, I think. And let's actually make all of the staccatessimos. Let's turn them into spiccatos, because I think they need to be a little shorter. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, let's paste that over to violin 2 as well, so they'll play in unison. And viola, let's do potentially same thing down the octave, let's say. Yeah, now you don't really need to worry about the harmony with the strings because it's taken up by the brass. The brass is so dominant in this piece that it's just, you're not even gonna hear the strings in the grand scheme of things. So if I was orchestrating this, this is how I would approach it. We already covered the bassoons, so now we're actually just gonna take this and just paste it over to the flutes. It's pretty much the same deal. Oboe and the clarinets down an octave. And let's see where the oboe lands, because oboe can sometimes be a little iffy with register. It's kind of high up, so what you can do is you can take those upper notes, just displace them the octave, and because you have the clarinets going an octave lower, you won't even hear that displacement. You'll actually just hear it as 2 octaves. That actually sounds great. Okay, so let's hear it all in context. Okay, those sforzandos in the strings should be a little quieter. They're kind of dominant. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that, honestly. Okay, so let's now do essentially the same thing. We should be able to kind of copy paste and just maybe adjust the voicings. If that's too weird, then we can always try just a different idea for the first half. So I'm wondering, can I bring it down the octave? Might be kind of strange. I think I'm actually gonna do my own line for this part, something a little less prominent. So let's do, we can do it the octave lower and just adjust. Something. I like that beginning. Dun. Something like that, maybe. That sounds good. Okay, so just to clear up what I actually played in there. Pretty much the same idea as what happens later, but down an octave and adjusting some notes for the harmony. Let's copy paste that. And we will make them all spiccato. Maybe down an octave for the viola. We'll try it. May not even need the viola down the octave, but we'll see. Now, as for the winds, this is at octave with the clarinets, I think. Okay, and I think even oboes as well. We'll do the flutes too, but this is pretty low for the flutes. So you won't even really hear it, but the idea is that they're just constantly playing. Where is that for the oboe? That's a little honky, so let's actually do the exact flip. Can we just take the lowest notes here and put them up the octave? So it's the opposite of what we did before. Yeah. Now I want the clarinet to be a little more dominant here. Sounds good. All right, let's hear it in context. Okay, so here, we're just working with really simple ideas actually, but just spreading them properly across the sections. So that's what keeps this really clear, even though it's full orchestra. It's really important that when you're writing for full orchestra that you just keep your ideas concise and clear. Work from good ideas and then expand outwards. So lastly, we have the percussion, which we're gonna grab. And it shouldn't be too difficult. It's mostly just like booms and pulses. The first half, crash. So the gong that happens, I'm paying attention to the cymbals first. So piatti and the gong tam-tams. I'm hearing that kind of increase in rhythm as the piece goes on. So we start off with just a crash. So we're just gonna grab that. Let's do a different one. Okay, and then our gong. We do. We'll get that last note just because. Okay. Now, let's pay attention to the bass drum and timpani. So interestingly, I hear the bass drum, that's pretty much just pulsing. The timpani, I can't tell if it's doing rolls or just hitting the note repeatedly, but there's definitely something sustaining about it. I think I might be going dun 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 dun. Let's see if we can do something like that. Now his timpani is a lot farther in the room than mine sounds, so let's try and get a little closer to that sound. And this is how I work, by the way. I will literally just, mix kind of as I go, because I find that helpful in the end. So we'll try something like that. Up, 2, 3, 4. That's really cool. So that's actually something I just learned right here is I tend to do like rolls, but having that pulse is actually really, really sick. Okay, so now I'm gonna use something a little hybrid. It's not in Howard Shore's, but I kind of like using sub booms on occasion, complemented with bass hits. You don't want to overdo this, but just a little, it's kind of cool. So let's just add that in there. Okay, great. Now let's get the main kind of boom, boom. And I'm gonna use, let's see, maybe low booms, Hans Zimmer. It's still boomy, but not quite as boomy as the sub one. Okay, now let's get something a little bit more in the midsection. It sort of feel like a tenor snare could be kind of cool. But I don't know if that's actually what's happening. So let's listen one more time for reference. You know, it kind of does sound like there's a snare accenting the melody. So let's try it. I think that works. You can always listen to the percussion on its own and just kind of see where it's sitting. Let's lower these booms a little bit. And make the timpani a little less bassy. Sounds pretty good. Let's get one more percussion in here like taikos, just to fill in the mid-range a little bit. Something like that, and I'm gonna cut out a bunch of the bass too, because we don't need any more bass here. Just for some kind of upper sparkle. I think that sounds pretty darn good. So let's give one more listen to the whole thing. I'm gonna show you all of the MIDI, and then if you're interested in grabbing the MIDI for yourself to mock this up, I'm gonna have this available to everybody who is a Patreon member, which I've linked in the description. Now, if you enjoyed this video, as always, it means a lot to me if you leave a like and subscribe for more. It's really the best way you can support me with these videos getting demonetized. You could also buy me a coffee in the description because I like coffee. It keeps me caffeinated, which is always good. And if you want to see more videos like this, you can check out my previous videos where I've done How to Train Your Dragon and Skyrim. And be sure to stick around because I do a poll every now and again asking people what they want to see next. This was voted for in a poll I did a couple weeks ago, and I'll probably be running another one in the next few weeks. Thanks as always for watching, and hope to see you in the next one.